He claimed there would be transparency in government. Where? He won't even tell us his age. He can't be honest about anything. This man needs to be gone. Sorry. And yes, I'm a Kathy voter. But I've known her for years. But I would vote for anybody else if she wasn't running besides Fouts. So he needs to go. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Grace Stidham. Good evening.
Good evening. Now we're going to try it with teeth. One of the subjects I did not expect to talk about was the bathroom. I'm still having to use a handicap bathroom. And I walk in with a whole bunch of rolled paper in there. I hope I'm not going to get disease. I wash my hands after. I mean, that reflects anybody that comes into our city council walking into a mess. So whoever doesn't know how to clean up after himself, please don't use our bathroom. Okay, now the reason I was coming up here tonight was, and one lady just talked about, so it's really weird that I'm talking about it too, is I've received several phone calls. They didn't take me long to start getting calls. Hey Scott, you do know that you can't put pony back on Jim Fouts' sign, right? I got at least 20 calls about that. Please use your own space. I really have a problem that somebody's in authority, because I sure know from Steenberg's administration the price I paid for talking up. I don't have the Kathy Vogue sign in my yard. I don't have it in front of a business or anything else. And I don't even know if I'm voting for her. But I think it's really outrageous that I have checked the houses that have been cited for it, and I'm not finding the problem, especially one being, why is an inspector going in a backyard to find out the pool cover has water in it while we have rain? This is not the way we treat citizens. This is not called good campaigning. I've watched for the last 4 years. And if somebody wants to land-base me this time, I'm directly going after Jim Fouts when I talk. I'm really happy that he supports American. He buys American, I agree 100%. But when families are losing their homes and they're having a hard time feeding their families, I don't want to hear you bought a new car. You know, stop and think. We did not get the accountability that he promised. I tried to warn people, but nobody wanted to listen. I said neither candidate was a good choice. Jim Fouts, I would like to say, is not part of the problem, but he was on the council long enough. When I came to my first council meeting, I listened to a bunch of arguing. He was one of the people that I talked about that act like a 3-year-old child. I have to give you guys credit, at least you don't do the bickering back and forth. You have acted like adults, and I want to praise you for that. But I don't see anything changing. And by the way, Jim does not have to send anybody to my house. Steenberg already did it when he was in office enough times. I say, if you want to run a campaign, run it clean. Do not be giving tickets. People have a free right to put whatever sign they want, whether it's Co-Martin. By the way, I will take one of your signs. I might not get a ticket for it. But this is America. They can put any sign they want on there. We do not have the amount of inspectors to go around giving tickets for signs. Let's go on the issues of what's going on wrong. This is America. Let's try to play a clean campaign this time. Have a good night. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Chris Pasternak. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chris Pasternak, concerned citizen of the city of Warren. First thing, I'd like to wish Kyle Atkins a happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
I didn't think he was going to make it, so just wanted to tell him over the TV, but he did make it here. Find it kind of interesting that a crack frame on a roll-off truck, it gets replaced, but a crack frame on a fire truck does not get a replacement of that fire truck. Why are our fire trucks continually in bad shape and they're not getting replaced? We're replacing police vehicles as we should, but yet we're not replacing the fire department vehicles, except for EMS. It's a money generator. That's kind of nice. It just does not make sense, especially with all the houses burning down, the explosions all around my house. I get worried every day that the whole south end south of 9 Mile is going to burn down one day because of the lack of equipment or manpower. Went for a walk with my family, walking down 9 Mile. My son looked at a park and said, "Wow, that's a cool park." And I looked at him and said, "Sorry, son, you'll never go there." And he goes, "Why?" I go, "Well, it's not that safe." And he goes, "Is it?" He looked at me and said, "Is it because it's too close to the road?" He goes, "Can't those grown-ups figure it out?" This is a 5-year-old telling me, can they figure it out? Drive by there, look at the playscape, look how close it is to the road. It's embarrassing. Next thing I want to talk about, ex officio appointments to boards and commissions. Most of the appointments, if you read, are 1- and 2-year terms. Have you guys ever voted to extend those terms or do anything with them? There's only 4 according to state law, which is the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Building Authority, the Planning Commission, and the TIFA Board that are automatic renewals if there is no vote taken. So none of you have to attend any more meetings, although some of you haven't been attending for years. Next thing is in the city charter to answer a question about appointed positions. Section 7.6, if you read it, says that within 5 days of an appointment, the mayor must give notice to the clerk, and then at the next city council meeting, it must be known public of the appointment, and the city council must approve. And if they do not approve of the position, it comes back to the next council meeting, and if it is not approved at that meeting, then it is denied, and that person can't come back for a full year. One other quick little note. Called the water department. House is flooding all over the backyard. Bottom's flood. You can see it from the street. It's kind of ridiculous. Call the water department. If it's an emergency, press 1. I hit 1, and what happens? All circuits are busy. Click. Call back. All circuits are busy. Click. If it's an emergency of a water main break, how are you supposed to get through? There should be some sort of answering service.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eugene Sawyer.
Members of council, citizens of Warren, good evening. My name is Eugene Sawyer. I am running for city council at large, and I'm here to protect my turf and my issue. My issue has always been in this city to implement the emergency medical service, the EMS. I can remember standing here time after time, month after month after month, pleading with the people that were on the prevailing side of the question. Not only was I doing this, but other citizens were here pleading with the same people, saying, it's unfair that I have to pay $200, $300, $400 for a 2-mile ambulance ride. I received a lot of phone calls from a lot of people about Mr. Sadowski's little brochure here where he has an ambulance. Mr. Sadowski, you voted no on this in '05. Do you recall? Do you recall how many people came here to entreat you, to plead, please bring our EMS back? You turned a deaf ear. In fact, you could have done it as the member of a prevailing side. You could have brought it back in 06, 07. Even when you got to be the council secretary, even if it was a whim of yours to put it on the agenda, you refused. And now you present this subliminal message to the people saying, oh, I brought this back to you. Vote for me. I voted for you. The only reason you voted for it because of political expediency. I don't see how you could have the audacity to put this in your brochure when you voted no. You voted no. And then you say, save $3 million. If you had voted right the first time, you would have saved $15 million. Now, I don't claim to have credit too much for having this issue brought before the city all these years. And I give credit to the people who implemented it. But the person who really should get most of the credit is Mr. Lou Bertie. He created the pathway for us to have this. And it's a shame nobody recognizes this. Mr. Bertie, I thank you publicly. A former councilman, a person who's served on a redistricting for the county, a county commissioner, and this man still does things for the city. Mr. Bertie, thank you. But no thanks to you, Mr. Sadowski. I don't think you should have put this on. That's disgusting.
Our next speaker is Gloria Sanker. Good evening.
Good evening, City Council. You know, because of the constant approving of change orders that increase the original amount of the project itself and the constant transfer of funds, there could be a shortage in the budget, causing a request to be made at some time to increase taxes. No, we don't have one pending now. But if we don't live within our budget constraints, constant change orders and constant transfer of funds will add to the deficit. And after a while, we will either have to go back to the rainy day fund or increase taxes. If we do that, you know, we shouldn't go back to the rainy day fund because, number one, we've already done that. And if we continue to go back to it, we will have to keep operating in a deficit like we are now. That means spending money that we don't have. And why are we using the rainy day fund at this time when there may be a large storm or even a tornado in the future? And if we don't have a rainy day fund, then we will be forced to ask the taxpayers for an increase. If we do that, the demands are going to be too strenuous for our residents, especially the seniors. There's probably about 2/3 of seniors that make up our population, and many of them are already living on a pension of like $900 a month, and $400 of that is being used on prescription drugs. And many of my elderly friends, maybe like yours, are also spending money for home care because they really can't afford to go into assisted living. So the seniors cannot survive any more tax increases. And other people in the city